Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone, and it's caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown! ISB! A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it up, got it! And Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
I mean, that's a goddamn Emmy winner right there.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard here on this Monday. It is May 8th. Thanks a lot for joining us. Appreciate you so much. Coming to you from high atop the 18th fairway here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Of course, powered by Andy Moore Honda. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com and the family of restaurants in and around the Bloomington area under the Endeavor Hospitality umbrella. Great places like Southern Stone, Feast Market and Cellar, Capello, Metalworks Brewing, and BB's Market. And soon to be the Butcher's Cut, Pub 15 down in Bedford. Plenty to talk about today on the program. Bronny made his college decision. Will he play in the Big Ten? Question mark. The Alabama gambling issue. We'll talk more about that. That could, with all the change, with kids flying from school to school, no allegiance, it's almost an impossibility that this doesn't happen. But they were on it quickly and caught that. Block charge. Is it finally going to be called the way it's supposed to be called? It should have always been called. We'll talk about that. Indiana baseball sweeps Northwestern to end their home series. The Kraken. They're cracking, baby, in the NHL. They're still rolling. I think fans are too close to the action now, period, in sports. We'll talk about that. Denny Hamlin in NASCAR wins. Bumps his way, a little bump and ride, a little rubbins racing.
Wasn't there a fight in that NASCAR race I saw?
Fracas, fist fight. There was a fracas afterwards, and it was great because it was none of this pushing and shoving crap. First of all, Denny Hamlin bumps kind of Chase Elliott. He was loose, but they were all professional about it. He said, I was loose and yada yada, and so it was no big deal. I don't know what happened, but really between those two guys, I didn't see anything big that happened. But Ross Chastain and Noah Gragson, and Gregson's bigger, but he reaches out and he grabs a hold of Chastain. And he's got him by one arm, and there's kind of some people starting to be between him. And as soon as he grabbed Chastain just says, bets are off. Boom! Lands one right on the jaw. You never see connection. That's a great. I was like, boom! He connected. So it was no pushing and shoving. See, that's what you want to see. You don't want to see that pushing and shoving crap. And they separated them, of course, but it was awesome. Yeah, I love seeing that stuff. That's a good old-fashioned NASCAR. I loved it. Of course, Mackenzie Mbako was in for a visit, former Duke commit. We'll talk about that. Not a lot to talk about as he is off to visit Louisville. Ray Dennis in the portal. He's the MAC Player of the Year. Also in the NBA draft right now to check his status there. We've got the EYBL coming up this weekend, as well as three Stripe Life, 3 SSB. So the guys will be on the road. The Hoosier.com will be in Dallas at the EYBL event. You got the NBA playoffs going on. Playoffs? The Kentucky Derby. Anybody check that out? That was kind of cool. A hell of a race. It was a great race. won by not the favorites. Fisticuffs.
And there were several scratches,
I like that.
including the overall favorite,
I like this.
Forte.
Fisticuffs. I like that. Thank you, Philip. Fisticuffs. There was Tim Wilson, good old was a great comedian. Used to hear him on, if you listen to Bob and Tom, you heard him on Bob and Tom, but he ended up moving. He was from, as he would call it, what do you call it? The comedian center of the world, Columbus, Georgia, which was a joke. But he moved to Louisville. I ran into him like 3 different times at places, and he'd say, "Are you following me?" But anyway, he was a funny dude, but he had a song, man. It was Sunday church softball fist fight. That's what it reminded me of. Yes. Let's see. Before we get all into that, let's hit some comments. Kenneth pointing out Louisville and St. John's both got commitments at the 3 this weekend. Andrew pointing out, said, good morning, says, or good day, says the weekend visit went well. Well, I'm assuming that it did. I'm not burying myself into this stuff. These things are going to happen. And yes, I know that we're in the business of news, and I want to get the news out when it happens, but at the same time, I don't want to be, just let it happen. Let it happen. Let's see. I have not heard that there was a cancellation on the Mbako visit.
There was rumors from Kansas insiders, if that's what he's referring to, that he was going to cancel his Louisville visit. There's not been any confirmation of that. He's supposed to be going this weekend, I believe. So as of right now, he is still planning on visiting Louisville.
And Kansas, of course, just picking up Hunter Dickinson.
Yep.
That, my God, that would be a little bit much. So let's see. There you go. You got it, baby. Fred. Speaking of the Derby, what a hell of a race. Good weather, good crowd. I mean, everything seemed to be what you'd want it to be from a major sporting event. It all went well. NBC did a great job with the coverage. I enjoyed it. I really did. You had all the stars. Here's one of the great things about the Derby. The Derby is one of the few major sporting events. It might be the only major sporting event besides, I guess, Indy, but it's not quite the same, where all the great athletes can go to, because this sport is really about the horses. Not that the jockeys are not important, they are. But the stars are the horses. So doesn't matter what NHL season, NBA, MLB, NFL, doesn't matter. They're all available at this particular time, except for the NBA guys, I should say.
Mr. Patrick Mahomes got booed for his pronunciation of, he pronounced Louisville the correct way, Louisville, but people around here obviously don't like that.
You know what? I noticed that Patrick Mahomes was given the Riders Up call by NBC, had him do the Riders Up call. And I noticed that Mike Tirico has gone out of his way. And for those of you that don't know, if you are not from that area, Louisvillians take great pride in making sure that there's the name of the city is pronounced incorrectly. And that's not a joke. Over the years, how the name of the town has been bastardized, basically because of poor
English skills.
say?
pronunciation skills. Here's the thing:
lackadaisical. I'll call it lackadaisical enunciation skills.
And it's not even just Louisville, or I'll try to be proper here, Louisville, but any city in Kentucky that has Ville in the name, the people around here put Vull instead of Ville, whether it be Pikeville, they say Pikeville, or Danville,
you know
they
why?
say Danville.
That's a Southern country thing.
It is.
That's instead of taking the time to enunciate every aspect of the syllable, they shortened it.
We've also got Versailles, which should really be pronounced Versailles.
Now, that one, I can understand the pronunciation different just because it sounds a little hoity-toity. But maybe it should be Versailles. I don't know. But because that is taking from a French town, and it's a French name, Louis is freaking Louis. Louis is Louis in every language. It does not change. Louis.
Well, there's Louis, but that's not what the city's called.
Well, that's Louis. If it was Louis, it would be Louis. But it's spelled Louis. Louisville is spelled with an S.
That's true.
So this particular pronunciation of King Louis was with an S. Either way, they don't use the S, and I was born in Louisville. If you live there, you're supposed to pronounce it Louisville.
Interesting fun little inside bit. Whenever I'm recording commercials for Louisville specifically, they ask me to pronounce it Louisville. They don't want me to say it any other way. It has to be Louisville because that's
because if you don't, people crack the. You know what? I was born there, like I said, but I grew up in Southern Indiana and then started working in media, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to pronounce it like that because it's wrong. I'm like, I'm not going to pronounce it like that just because. No, I halfway take pride in speaking somewhat correctly.
Yeah.
But when in Rome, right? Mike Tirico said Louisville every time on the broadcast. And more broadcasters, if you do anything with any regularity there, that. You can tell the guys that don't. Welcome to Louisville, Kentucky, which is the exact pronunciation. And I don't know when this change happened. I'm going to guess it started happening over the 70s and then really took root in the 80s, I'm going to say. But regardless,
break.
We've got to take a break. Lots to get to, lots to talk about. Dustin Dopirak, Mindy Starr is going to join us. The Alabama gambling issue, man, cannot wait to talk about that. Will Bronny play in the Big Ten? Block charge, that's going to happen. And fans are way too close to the action. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends from Guyton, part of the Endeavor Hospitality Network. Just go to GoTeamBites.com and pick yours up, or at BB's. Back with more after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the market. No way, Russell.
I've seen about 3 different people in the chat put Dingle's name spelled differently. I've seen people call him Dingo. I've seen Dingle. I've seen Ding. I don't think people know who he actually is.
It's just Dingle, I would.
It is Dingle, but I'm just funny reading the comments. Let me see if I can find one of the ones.
Yeah, Russell, I don't see St. John's getting either Dingle or, well, you know what? The only reason I could possibly see him getting Dingle, and it looks like I'm not lit up as well. This thing blocking my
No,
light.
you look fine. It may be blocking a little bit, but you don't. It's not affected. It doesn't look bad.
It's just weird. It just seems darker for some reason. Well, I just lifted it up.
Justin says he's going to call him Dangleberry unless he commits to IU. I like that picture with the cat. That's funny looking.
Well, I'm sure he doesn't mean it to be funny.
Well, I don't mean that in an insulting way. I mean like it's just an adorable picture.
There we go. How about that? Much better.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah, now I got it out of my face.
All right, you'll have another
Get out
segment
of my face
with me here, and then Dustin Dopirak will be here at 9:10.
Get out of my face, jabroni.
Jabroni. Go ahead and put my camera back on.
It was a nice weekend.
It was, and that's going to rain a bunch this week, I believe.
That's okay. You got to have a little.
Yeah, I mean, we need some rain around here, actually, so it's not that bad. All right, here we go.
Food and custom metal art. Check out their custom growlers. Metalworks Brewing Company has an updated menu, new brews, and will be offered in all Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Come taste with Dr. Hops' Brewing. Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday. It's April 8th. Of course, brought to you by Endeavor Hospitality and Southern Stone Restaurant, located on Patterson and Rogers. If you're in and around the Bloomington area or visiting, make sure you stop in. It is a top restaurant here in the town with incredible food. All fresh made. Great weekend. Beautiful weekend, as a matter of fact. Well, at least, I guess it depends on where you were. Lots going on over the weekend, of course, like I mentioned, the Derby, you got the NHL playoffs, the NBA playoffs. NASCAR was going nuts. What wasn't happening? Of course, the recruiting continues, but not a lot. If you notice, there's a lot less coming out on the Indiana side, and I think that is with purpose, because it kind of bit them in the aspirin bottle, I think, early on, letting all that out. Expectations get high, and then you don't deliver. Russell thinks that he has a feeling St. John's might get Dingle and Igbako, which I would find that hard to believe. I could understand someone like Dingle going there, a guard. Rick Pitino, dude's the master. He'll get you to the NBA, or he'll teach you how to do it. And it looks like I'm assuming that, Fred, I'm assuming you meant May 12th through 14th. In regards to Mbako having a visit at Louisville, which means no announcement coming from him expected just yet. So you have to wait. The block charge is being looked at to be changed. And first of all, I cannot, and I'll talk about this more with Dustin. I can't believe it's not like this already. Now they're saying the defender has to be set before the offensive player lifts off. Wasn't that? I was under the understanding that was already the case. How could that not be the case? How can you allow a defender to slide into position after the offensive player has already established his plant foot? To my knowledge, it wasn't supposed to be that way. But now you need a rule to institute a rule. But that's because it has gotten so horrible. The block charge is out of control. I bet you it is not called correctly 50% of the time. It's a coin toss. And I hate it. It drives me insane because it's usually wrong. Right, John Boyd?
You know, to be honest, here's my thoughts on the block charge. And maybe it's just because you all, or most people around your age, are more understanding of it, and you've dealt with the block charge longer than I have, at least in terms of observing it and maybe playing with it. I've never understood why people think it's called so incorrectly. And again, this is more so on me maybe not understanding it as well. So I'll take that part of it. But I've never completely understood why people are so upset with how it's called. But again, that's me not knowing any better, I'm assuming, more than likely. So I'm not going to act like I'm some expert with my thoughts on this topic.
Okay, you're out.
Well, I mean, feel free to elaborate. What is the issue with why people are saying
because it's gotten to be too much. It's gotten to be too much about flair, too much about
like people are flopping to get the charge call kind of thing.
That's only part of it. It's just getting in position too late. When an offensive player is driving to the basket and his foot, and he's already planted his foot and started to go up, and all of a sudden the defender slides in super fast and gets in front of him. Well, that's bullcrap. You cannot do that.
But noticed that,
and they allow that so often. And I'm like, to me, why this needs a rule is just because there are too many officials that are just not competent.
Yes,
or
I think that's fair.
They like the attention of making the big they go the other way, showing the charge sign. It's crap. And some of them happen super fast, and I get it. You got to go to the monitor. Just go to the monitor. It's very simple. Where's the offensive player's plant foot? Is the defender set yet? Done. It's just gotten out of control. But athletes have gotten faster, and defenders have kind of they've taken advantage of that.
And kudos to the players. They're doing what they can to get the call. It's not their fault. It's the referee's fault.
Well, yeah, but they're being I wonder, we don't know how they're being directed to call. That whenever you see a rule like this or something that's going to be a point of emphasis, quote unquote, is what the phrase they like to use, a point of emphasis this year. 1 year it was flopping, then it's something else, and right now it's going to be the block charge, and that's fine. They got it's something that's got to be taken care of. The flopping was getting out of control. Well, they had to step in and make a point of emphasis of it. The block charge is out of control, but this is out of control because it's being called so wrongly. The flop was being called. Here's the thing I don't understand, and I would love for an official, because I'm not getting on them, but I'd really love to know how they can be so gullible sometimes. Some of this stuff is so freaking obvious, and they get sucked into that. Unbelievable.
I think a lot of it's just the pressure. Some officials, I'm sure, just aren't up to the task of being able to block out the noise of a home crowd, and therefore they don't want to get booed at and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, that's not how they should be, but I bet that's what a lot of the issues, or where a lot of the issues come from.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that with Dustin. And there's another story out, not to do with basketball, but the Colts. That Colts owner Jim Irsay was not happy with an ESPN report on Sunday night that the Washington Commanders contacted former Indianapolis quarterback Andrew Luck during the 2022 offseason. Under NFL rules, a player's contract tolls when they retire, meaning that the player's rights are retained by that team that held his contract at the time of his retirement. Luck retired with 3 years on his 6-year, $140 million extension he signed. And the Colts famously declined to pursue any of the signing bonus that he was originally paid. Man, I wish somebody would give me the signing bonus and not ask for it back. But because of that, the Colts hold Luck's rights, and the NFL's anti-tampering policy makes it clear that no club or any person employed by and affiliated with a club is permitted to tamper with a player who's under contract or whose exclusive negotiating rights are held by another club. So if any other team attempted to contact Andrew Luck or an associate of his, it would have been violation of the league's tampering rule. And according to the ESPN story, the Commanders were turning over every stone last season, cold calling every NFL team that might be willing to part ways with its quarterback. And the story says another call went to Luck. So if NFL found that Washington was tampering, the penalties could be severe. The NFL stripped the Dolphins of their first-round pick in 2023, their third-round pick in 24. They fined the owner $1.5 million and suspended him, along with his vice chairman and partner, for 3 violations of the anti-tampering policy for two years. That's when, I remember they were trying to get Tom Brady. He was going to retire. Then he was going to become a part owner of Miami, yada, 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 trying to back channel that stuff. So if this turns out to be true, this is more trouble for Washington, man, and probably not the trouble they need right now. This would set them back as a team as far as you getting hit with loss of draft picks and the like. Boy, that's not how new owners are going to want to come into this. And it's looking like that's a potential. Dan Snyder was forced to sell the Commanders, if you recall. And that doesn't happen very often. Rarely does that happen. So, potential story there brewing with the Colts. I don't know what the Colts would benefit from that. I don't know how they could, to be honest with you. And well, that's the NFL may take those picks away, but they should give them to the team that was offended. How about that, John? What do you think?
You're asking the wrong guy.
Yeah. Peyton Manning was with, oh my goodness, Pat McAfee. He said on his show that he cried that year he couldn't play. I bet. I can see that. I can see that. I saw there was some USFL over the weekend.
Who is the
all
most
kinds
local USFL team in Indiana?
You know what? That is a great question. And I got 0 for
I
you
know
because
there's a team in Michigan.
I was going to, that would be my guess because I knew that as well. And I'm like, that's probably a team in Michigan because I can't think of one that's in, unless there's one in Chicago, which would surprise me if
it
not.
looks like there's only 8 teams, excuse me. Birmingham, Houston, Memphis, Michigan, New Jersey, New Orleans, Philadelphia, and Pittsburgh. New Orleans is by far, in terms of just the way that all their branding is, the New Orleans Breakers. I love their colors and I love their uniforms. They are a slick looking team just by branding alone. I have no idea what their roster looks like, but
Which team is that?
the New Orleans Breakers.
I started to watch a little bit of a game the other night, whoever was on, and I was in Detroit.
Oh yeah, it was probably the Michigan Panthers.
Okay, first of all, explain that.
Why they're calling them the Michigan Panthers and not the Detroit
Yes.
Panthers?
No,
I guess
why they're called the Panthers?
Oh
There are
yeah,
no
that's
Panthers
a
in
great question.
Michigan?
No idea. And of all the names, here's all the nicknames: the Birmingham Stallions, the Houston Gamblers, the Memphis Showboats, the Michigan Panthers, the New Jersey Generals, the New Orleans Breakers, the Philadelphia Stars, and the Pittsburgh Maulers. And the Panthers is just out of place in all shapes and forms that it could be in. You could have come up with so many things that are more creative than the Michigan Panthers, especially something that could be more geographically correct.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't. But some of these names are regurgitated, aren't the Gamblers or whatever? It's a regurgitated name.
Yeah, I don't know what it's from. Another one that's interesting: the Showboats.
Yes,
that just seems more like a joke than anything else. But it sounds like the name of like a AAA or a single A baseball team.
Well, they kind of are.
I mean, I guess that's kind of what this is. I know it's not as big of a joke. I mean, like the Macon Whoopie, we always talk about that one, or the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. Those are joke names, in my more so than others.
Yes.
But break.
Yep, let's take a break. We've got more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. It's Monday, May 8th. We are deep into spring, people. About to get there. Dustin Dopirak joining us next from the Indy Star, and we've got lots more to talk about. Appreciate you being here. Look forward to doing it all day long here. Back with more, brought to you by our good friends from Hank's Pizza Mac. If you're in and around the Bloomington area or visiting, whether it's for graduation or school, a game, whatever. Great place to pick up pizza bowls, back bowls, everything. Right on 1280 North College Avenue, up by all the big student housing is on that end of town. 812-330-0000. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether
Oh, man, I didn't think about that. Yeah, it's a little bit too much, isn't it?
What is it?
ISBR.
Oh no, it's not. They're not criticizing. They're just being.
No, I wasn't saying that. I was saying it is a little much, isn't it? I wasn't thinking about that. I just this is actually also some of the new merchandise that's going to be available. Everybody's asking about the hat I wore the other day. I mean, man, that thing was popular. But that we're going to have that, all those things available: hats, visors, t-shirts. How's it going, brother?
Doing good, Jim. How are you?
Cannot complain. Just going over this wacky weekend of sports. There was so much that went on, man.
There was. There's a lot going down.
But I'm still, the Alabama gambling issue is still high on my list.
I'm fascinated by that story.
I am too. I can't get over this effing coach. Was this effing dumb?
Yeah. I haven't read anything new.
And the guy that made the bets was dumber. Why make one bet? Make 4 or 5 bets that are under the radar.
Right.
That's what got him caught. He probably made, I don't know how much he bet, but it was large.
Yeah, apparently. Has there been anything new? I haven't seen anything new since like Friday.
I have not. No, I've seen nothing new, but probably we're at the point where there's nothing new going to come out now until it comes out.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Nobody's got him on the phone either.
But it's like, how does this not, with the portal and every team having guys that weren't recruited like a freshman. When you recruit a freshman, you build rapport. You're talking to the families. It could be over 2-3 years. Who knows?
Right.
But a portal guy that just comes in out of nowhere, doesn't have any true allegiance. I mean, I could see this happening in any sport.
Right. Pick up at BB's Market with no extra charge. So leave the heavy lifting to us and enjoy healthy eating with stocked meals in your fridge. Order online today at thefreshfork.com. Fresh Fork is a proud partner of WOW Network. This segment is brought to you by RE/MAX Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back on this Monday. It's May 8th. Our good friend Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star joins us
Jim?
on this very relaxing Monday after a pretty relaxing weekend. For me, he had a great thunderstorm Saturday morning.
It's magnificent.
It was actually it was great. And a lot of we're in the so-called off season, I guess we call it, but we're not, because there's so many other things that are not off that are running full. The NBA playoffs, the NHL playoffs, all of which are actually, all the playoffs have been phenomenal. Think about the NCAA men's championship, the women's, how fun that was. Now the NBA playoffs has had shockers in it. You still don't know who's winning because you've got some of the favorites still down. NHL has just been fraught with shockers in that playoff. So it's actually been an unbelievably great playoff for everything because it's been so unpredictable.
Yeah, no, I mean, I haven't watched a ton of hockey because I never do. But
Me either,
the playoffs has been wild. The NBA playoffs, I mean, this is as open as I can remember it, of really feeling like there's like 6 teams that I think could win it, you know, that you think have a real shot. And frankly, there's 8. I mean, like, you can't rule Miami out, you know, as much as they're an 8 seed. I mean, they're up 2-1 in the series. And, you know, when you have Jimmy Butler in the playoffs, you have a different team. basically. So like Miami's the lowest seeded team, and I don't think they're out of it. I don't think it's impossible to see them shock the world. Just considering just the players they have. But so and everybody else is obviously a legit contender. The Sixers, the Celtics are legit contenders. The Knicks are at least pretty close to that. The Warriors and Lakers, that's turning into a good series. And Denver, Phoenix last night was just magnificent. I mean, it was incredible. Just the kind of shot making that was going on between Joker going for 53 and 11. That was wild. And then Booker and Durant with 36 each, and Shamet with 19. That was just incredible basketball between Denver and Phoenix. So you just get the sense that everybody's got a shot. I mean, you're seeing some blowouts, but like you're seeing those, change hands basically. Like, one team gets blown out one night, the other team gets blown out the next night. You've got 2-2. The series that have gone 4 are both 2-2, and the series that have gone 3 are both 2-1, and they can both even up tonight. It's not out of the question at all. You can see Golden State, or even that series up, and you certainly could imagine the Knicks doing it. In their second night in Miami, they looked bad in Game 3 in Miami. It happens sometimes when you get to Miami, but that's all 4 of those series have a chance to be really good. I would not be surprised whoever wins what in either one of those, in any of those 4 series. I would not be surprised by the winner at this point. The semis have been tremendous. First round was great. It's a really fun playoffs. The parity is terrific because there's just so many good players out there right now. It's just, again, there's just so many all-star caliber guys, and that gives so many teams a chance.
Yeah, but I wonder why, and I'm not saying that you have the answer either. Man, it was like this year. It all, like I said, the men's, the women's NCAA, these 2 playoff rounds that we're talking about. I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden it all became fun. It all became almost new, not marginalized, but the equality across the board has been crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, in basketball, the overarching theme. I mean, I don't know if you could say like, it's just this was bound to happen at some point because there's just so much depth of talent. I think that's the one thing that we always come back to when we talk to, like, Rick Carlisle is great for sort of trend conversations and saying where is this game going and why is it going that way, and it's just because there's this depth of skill more than anything else, and it's become a worldwide game, and I think that's a really big piece of it. You're seeing the top 3 guys for the MVP are all foreign players, and which tells you just how far the game is spreading out, and that's just bringing more and more people to it, and which means that there's this bigger pool of people. They're teaching the game in different ways, and so the skill level, who rises to the top, considering you're talking about a literal worldwide competition. It's tough to do that, and whoever gets up there, and that's true for the men's game. It's true for the women's game. It's obviously, the women's game is still more American based. I mean, the Americans are still more dominant when it comes to international competition. But again, you're just seeing, just more players involved on the men's side and the women's side, but particularly on the men's side, and bringing in these guys that have new, just different forms of skills that are being taught the game a different way. And bringing that to the table, and then it's forced the Americans to step their game up because you started to see all this skill level coming in from Europe and saying, "Oh shoot, well we got to be able to do this too." And you've seen them even copy moves and just do different things with shooting and whatnot. And there's been, I think people get annoyed at the number of trainers that are involved now, and because it's more voices and it brings more handlers to the game, which is an issue. But I do think the skill level is going up. You're seeing better shooting, better dribbling, better passing. It's definitely, I think, improving over time that you're combining that with the AAU game and these guys playing all these games and toning that down a hair. As far as the number of games they play, you don't see a lot of these weekend events go to championships anymore. So what I'm ultimately saying is that there has been kind of a calibration in terms of the amount of skill development you need versus the amount of games you need to play as you're developing as a player. And again, I think this is ultimately creating these just really, really skilled guys that are coming up through the ranks. And now you just look across the board and almost everybody has a really great player, a guy that you would pay to watch by himself. The Pacers obviously have Halliburton, and he's special. But like, where do you rank him? If you were to say who are the best, 30 guys, I mean, he's closer to 30 than he is to 1. And he's a spectacular player. I mean, he just knocked your socks off with how good he is. And so there's a lot of guys that are somehow better than him. And teams that are in the playoffs have multiple of those guys. Harden, when he's operating the way that he's capable of, the way that he did last night, the way that he did in game 1, he was special. Pair that with Embiid, who's the MVP. Jaylen Brown has been spectacular for Boston. Jason Tatum didn't have a great night last night, but I mean, got it together as the game went on. They've got dudes, they've got depth. I mean, it permeates ultimately, and guys are developing at the pro level. For what we're talking about their way up, they're becoming better players at the pro level. They're looking around and seeing how good you have to be to win. It's just driving everybody, and I think it's just these guys spread out over time. You saw all these super teams for a while, but the guys got drafted in and just turned into just superstars, and it's pretty well spread out and makes for a really, really good league.
And something, I don't know, is this exactly what you were talking about, or were you talking about the draft picks? But the top 3 finalists for the MVP this year. Is that what you said? Yeah.
Embiid, Joker, and Giannis are all foreign born.
Then you look at the top 20 potential draft picks right now on most mock boards. Mm-hmm. They're either American freshmen or foreign players of the equivalent. So, mm-hmm. and there's more than 1 or 2 on there. And that's why people think that when they say, "Oh, so-and-so is going to get drafted," I'm like, there's so many guys that are going to get drafted that the casual fan has never heard of. I have no idea who he is. Never heard. Like, who the hell is this guy? Yeah, there's a ton of them.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I think a lot, just obviously with the game going the way it goes, I mean, I do think casual fans, it depends on the definition of casual, really, at this point. Obviously, there's a bigger spectrum as to who's who, like, how casual somebody is. But I mean, I think a lot of people that at least are thinking about the draft know about at least a few of these guys. I mean, like, I think if you know about what's coming at all, you know about Victor Wembanyama. I don't think you could have lived under enough of a rock to not know that he's a thing. And the fact that they had those games between him and Scoot Henderson, I think a lot of people picked up on that, from I think October or whatever it was. It feels so long ago now, but those 2 guys got on the scene. So even though they didn't play college ball, I think everybody knows who they are. I think a lot of people know the Thompson twins, at least have some sense of who they are. I mean, I have not seen them play myself. But I think everybody has a sense that they exist. But there are going to be other players beyond that. They're going to be like, okay, who are these guys? And obviously there are more and more paths to the league that do not require college basketball. Now, that doesn't mean, though, that college basketball is by any means irrelevant. It's still a relevant path, and especially because these guys are getting NIL money now, it makes it competitive. I mean, now you can just decide you don't want to go to college. That's the point. If you want to have any kind of, like, you can make more money doing the NIL thing than you can going to these, G League Elite or Overtime Elite. The difference is the decision is whether you want to go to school. And if you don't want to, you could just go to go play in these other leagues and get paid and, not have to go to class. But you can make more money playing college ball now. So it's still a viable option. So I don't think we have to mourn the death of college basketball in terms of its ability to attract, one and done caliber players. But there are other options. So yeah, it's as much as any other year that I can remember, you're going to go into this and saying, okay, well, who's even like, I got to go a while before I see a college player who actually saw this year. So that's going to be a little bit weird.
Yeah. The NBA, and I think that we're going to see more and more college players stay in college because of NIL, because the NBA draft, you can look and see, man, if you're not a top freshman
or one of the top players in the country, if you're not a freshman, or one of the top foreigners, your odds of making the NBA are not, they're not good. Hell, the odds of getting drafted are not good, much less making it in the NBA. And so we're only talking, what are we talking, 30 guys a year maybe?
Well, I mean, it's obviously 60 get drafted, and I think there's obviously the G League component makes a difference because because the G League teams are now finally really tied in, with NBA teams.
Like if they're a feeder system.
They're a feeder system finally, which makes you wonder, like, why wasn't it like this the whole time?
Exactly.
Really, it could have been. I mean, it's really easy. I mean, I do think, I obviously got to see this year just how closely the Fort Wayne team ties in, with the Pacers, basically how much opportunity they have to interact with the Pacers. They come to games, they get to work out at the Pacers facility. There's a bus going back and forth between Fort Wayne and Indy. It's really important. I mean, I don't know what was going on before, but giving the NBA just an opportunity to have somebody, to have an option, makes a difference. Just that, and makes it more of an ability. You can go down there and you can grow your game, and tailor it toward what the parent team wants, as opposed to just going down there and trying to make as much of an impact as you can. So, and it helped, they called up Gabe York at the end of the year. Gabe York continues to get, chances because he's still working at the G League level and keeps producing, and you get a crack at it. And, you can go work on things down there. Obviously we've spent a lot of time certainly talking about Trace Jackson Davis and his professional opportunities. I don't know when he's going to get drafted, where he's going to end up, but the G League is really a backstop for him. I think could be a really big deal because, as we've said for years, every year we're going in and saying, is this the year that Trace Jackson Davis shoots threes? And every year it's not. Well, the bigger reason why he doesn't is because he wants to win basketball games. And, he has obviously, come to the conclusion every year that it doesn't make sense for him to, step away from the bucket, because that gives him the best chance to win is when he's scoring around the rim. So what's the point of forcing it to try to shoot some threes, to try to impress a team he doesn't play for now, when he can win games for the team he does play for? The thing that he could use is going to play for a team where the wins don't matter, where it does not matter, where you are told you're going to shoot these threes because we don't care if we win. It's not the point. The point is to develop you. The point is to make you better at this. We could care less the results of this game. And so somebody like Trace could use that. And there's other, certainly other players like that could use the opportunity to develop a skill by just going and doing it and not caring what kind of impact it has on the result. That's just the existence of that league makes a difference. So that gives you a reason. And it also gives you a reason to stay. You can get drafted, get on a two-way, or just get put on a G League team, and it keeps you in the United States. And that's obviously sort of a long-term, benefit. Basically, even if you come out early and if you get picked 45th or whatever, and you barely make the NBA, if you get into a camp in that way, you get to stick around on a G League team, and even if you bounce around the G League, you don't have to leave the country. And so, there's obviously positives leaving the country. Certainly you can talk to players who got out there and love the experience, and it serves them well to go play in Europe. It's obviously nicer to not have to leave the country, and they're paying better now, finally giving you a living wage at least, to play at the G League level. So there's reason to still go ahead, and there's reason to still just go pro because, hey man, you've been in college for 5 years or whatever. Like, what's the point of the sixth, man? You're 23. Just go become a professional. And there's reason for guys to leave and not stick around forever. But to your point, yeah, there's Hunter Dickinson is transferring. I'm shocked that it is wild to consider guys like him and Sheboy and Timmy and Trace and Big Hot haven't gone in the league yet. It's wild.
Absolutely. Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star with us. Got more coming up. Talk about the draft and when and why to enter if you're a player. And Indiana has 2 spots to fill, but yet they have struggled mightily to fill those spots. I wonder why, because it doesn't make any sense to me. Talk about that and much more here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Barbara Pop Real Estate Services, serving Southern Indiana and all those areas for over 3 decades. Reach out to Barbara at barbarapop.com or Matt at barbarapop.com. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the market, I cannot understand. Yes, Indiana has the 2 important spots that they needed to fill this whole time that they're still needing to fill. I don't understand why they're having such difficulty filling these 2 spots. Because it's a particular thing. It's like, we need a wing, we need a shooting guard. Boom. With all the ones that are out there, I'm like, how in the hell are they not getting somebody?
No, it's a great question. It's a great question. I think
because they seem to have everything. You've got a great coming in. You know what you got. It's Indiana. Plus, they're freaking going to be damn loaded if you get these 2 things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that looks good to me.
Mm-hmm. No, it's a good point. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there might all be specific different reasons. I mean, I don't know that there's anything. There's no reason to think that there's something systematic as far as how they're going to play that would give you pause there. I mean, they haven't had a great wing yet. Under Woodson, and I guess you could ask yourself some questions as to why Bates didn't work out, or why Geronimo didn't work out. But I mean, nothing jumps off the page as it being systematic, as there being something with the way that Woodson plays that would not benefit a wing,
Well, is Miller Kopp helping? I know that there's, and I don't mean this towards Miller, but I didn't he say on a podcast with someone that they just basically didn't run any sets for them, so they didn't have a lot of shots scheduled.
I don't know, maybe. I didn't see that.
That can't help.
No, I mean, if you're a really good wing and not just a catch and shoot wing, that's I don't know if that's a
right.
That's not a huge red flag,
right?
Because if the ball just moves, if you're a guy that can score off a wing that can score off the bounce and shoot threes, then you don't necessarily say, well, you have to run something specific for me. If you're Miller Kopp, you do, because you're like, okay, I shoot, I can drive maybe sometimes in straight lines up to a floater, and if I get a clear lane, I can get a layup. But mostly, I'm not making anybody miss. I'm not breaking anybody's ankles.
Here we go, guys.
Yeah.
You have cheeses, gourmet sandwiches, entrees, a coffee bar, bread, pastries, all made fresh and mouthwatering. Stop by Feast Market and Cellar today.
This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat here on this Monday, May 8th. Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star joins us. Indiana is down to just needing 2 spots filled, Dustin, but it's the same 2 spots that they needed filled for a while. At the beginning of this and now still at the end. And I'm being a little surprised that it's taken as long as it has, because Indiana has so much to offer. And I'm not talking NIL, I'm talking all of it combined and winning. I think that they're have a team that is ready to win especially with those 2 pieces in place. So it really is surprising me why someone's not kind of jumping at the chance. Let me be that shooting guard. Let me be that wing, because that is a position of need. So playing time is being laid out on a platter for you.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm pretty surprised about it too. It's just because of the number of guys they've gone after, and seemingly just missed. I mean, they have been, 2 or 3, for several guys, had opportunities. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if there's anything new on the, I can't even say his name, the Mbakbo front.
Mbako.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, I think he was in this week, and he certainly seems like a guy that would fit would fit that mold, but they're going up against Kansas. I know this because I don't know, I got tagged in one of those Andrew Slater tweets, and then like your whole Twitter mentions are blowing up for the next 2 days. IU fans and Kansas fans have been going after it over this in my mentions and everybody's mentions who's tagged in this tweet for the last 3 days. So they're going after it, and it's not easy to beat Kansas obviously right now.
Well, especially if they are in need for him and he completes something for them.
Yeah.
Well, where are you going to go?
Yeah,
team that played for and won a national championship 2 years ago and just added Hunter Dickinson. Yeah,
right. And was a 1 seed last year, and I got beat before they were supposed to, but all the same is just stacking 25, 26, 27 win seasons versus Indiana, who's still trying to just to bring it up. So, I mean, they've still got a chance. I mean, obviously the fact that he came to Bloomington matters. If you can get the guy on campus in Bloomington, you have a shot. You have an opportunity because, you're going to bring them in and everybody's going to know them. And even if it was graduation weekend, I'm sure he ran into a whole bunch of people that were like, hey, you should come to Indiana. I'm leaving, but you should stay, that sort of thing. I'm sure that gives you a chance because it is, as somebody saw, had a comment down here about its importance as a transfer destination. And it's not that it isn't. I mean, they've certainly got some good players through the portal, so far. It's just, it's constant. It is constant at this time of year trying to get with these guys. And there are a lot of good transfer destinations. There's a lot of places you can go because there's just so much shakeup. I mean, like it's musical chairs, you know what I mean? And it's a lot of musical chairs that are open. It's not a small amount where, okay, well, this is good opportunity and you don't have any other ones. This is obviously the best one. Like there's a bunch out there, and there's a bunch of teams that have needs because, they've got people leaving. So it's just, there's just so many shifting bodies that it's not easy to keep tabs on it. I think I do remain not unconvinced, but I mean, I think that the broader analysis of the Mike Woodson regime as recruiting in the portal and with freshmen is it's not obviously certainly that he can't recruit. It's not certainly that I think what's been made very, very clear is he can close and he can absolutely relate to these kids and whatnot. But I mean, I think the fact that you haven't seen a steady stream of commits, that you've had these sort of, they kind of come in bunches. And then they don't get anybody for a while. Whether it's at the high school level or at the transfer level, they seem to have sort of short waves of success, and then periods where they have a hard time, just getting anybody to make a commitment. I don't know why that is, and certainly because I'm not covering the team anymore. I don't know what it's a product of. I mean, I'm not seeing these. I'm not going to the travel events anymore, so I don't know who they're talking to, how wide of a net they're casting, how they're focusing, what like in terms of broader recruiting strategy, what that's looking like. But from a distance, it does make you wonder why, they go through periods where it seems like they have a hard time landing anybody at any level.
Was it Gabe Cupps originally an Archie Miller recruit?
Yes. So Gabe Cupps, and now he didn't commit to Archie Miller, and that's worth mentioning. So
but he was in on him early, and he was on him pretty hard from the start. I remember. I think
he was. So like that does come back to, you got to give credit to Mike Woodson for sticking with guys that were part of that staff, because really he's Brian Walsh is the driving force behind that. Well, Brian Walsh still works for Mike Woodson. So, if you're like, You can't say like, okay, well, like that's an Archie recruit. Well, like you got to give credit for Mike for the fact that there were guys on that staff. He said, I still need these guys rather than, and I think that was one of the best qualities that Mike showed in the early part of his tenure was not being so arrogant as to say that guys on this staff can't help me because they'll, like for fear maybe that they would try to, sabotage him or something like that. But like he had guys, he looked around and said, there are talented guys on the staff that can help me. I haven't coached college, and there are, things about it that I need somebody at this level to understand. And I don't necessarily have a Rolodex of guys that are at this level, that coach at this level versus the NBA. So he kept Brian Walsh, and Brian Walsh, one of the first things he did was go in and tell Mike Woodson, hey, you got to see this guy. Like, and you have to see him. You have to watch him play a game because the highlights aren't going to do it justice. You have to watch Gabe Cupps dictate a basketball game, which is what I saw when I went to go see him last year. So yeah, now a lot of these guys, that they've had recruited were guys that the assistants had a connection to, whether that was, Kenya Hunter, who, and who was already in the building, and Yasir Rosemond, who, just was really, really connected in Atlanta. And then also Walsh being part of the program as a video coordinator at the time. I mean, he kept, or it was recruiting coordinator at the time. So, Woodson keeping those guys and acting on those connections, doesn't take away from them as recruiting wins for his regime, I don't think. But yeah, the point being, it's just, the initial wave of recruits was a lot of guys that, those guys were already connected to in some way, shape, or form. It's been hard to land anybody since.
And now you've added Jordan Halls to this staff, which he doesn't have any recruiting experience, and everything in that regard he's learning now per se. But
he's not
a lot of times, and yes, there are I don't want to call it games or whatever, but there's a lot of things, routines you have to learn, and that's probably the biggest thing for him is just learning all these different channels you have to navigate, because everything else is just relationship. And relationships
are there already, and that makes a difference. That basically Walsh could just hand that job over and sort of coach holes up into it, because it's not the same as coaching basketball. Yeah, like to your point. There are a whole bunch of things that you have to learn how to do as far as just coordinating things that don't have anything to do with coaching the game, which obviously Jordan Hulse knows a ton about. And I don't think this has anything to do with Jordan Hulse, honestly.
No. I didn't mean, I'm just thinking, bringing him up because now he's
he's an additional part of the staff, and he's learning the job and whatnot.
And he's someone that played while it was overseas. He got 10 solid years in and left at the top of his game. He was 1 year removed from an MVP award over there, and playing on the two best teams he'd ever played on, and walked away. He wasn't done. He left for this job.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, he still had years in the tank. If that's all he ever wanted to do, now at a certain point, you got to just, this was what he saw as kind of his long-term future and the opportunity to be in Bloomington, certainly where his family still is, was something that he jumped on and everything like that. But like, to your point, I mean, he knows what it looks like, and he knows what the selling point is for Indiana. Obviously, the one issue is that, he's from Bloomington. He played at IU, like he didn't necessarily, have a sense of, he had a sense, but he might not. The fact that he doesn't know anywhere else is different. But he obviously played, in a different country and whatnot. That obviously expands his horizons. But I don't ultimately think that's, creating too much of an issue with, the recruiting itself. I think it's there's just a big picture question of why they're going a long time without landing players, and why they're going through a struggle period. Now, they could still land somebody. They could still get a big player. They could still get him back, Bo, as a high school recruit. They could still get some other transfer guys. There's still time left for them to put a good roster together, but it has been, I imagine just frustrating on the part of IU fans to see, you start to get a couple important guys at the beginning with Sparks and Ware, but have a hard time, getting somebody after that. They got Walker too. So it's just, but they could use a couple more pieces, and they're having a hard time getting them.
Well, and that's the thing, though. these two spots, boy, they get just the person that they need for those. They're ready to roll. They are, if in my opinion.
I mean, we got to remember, like we're presuming a lot as far as production is concerned.
Right.
You know, obviously,
and you have to replace.
Yeah.
You're replacing two All-Americans, and I understand that. But I keep saying this. I think that they will be a better team next year than they were this past year, because it wasn't much of a team. It was more of a two-man with some ancillary pieces. As far as production, I think that they're going to be a much more or less predictable team next year. You don't know where the scoring, obviously Xavier is going to be the head of the snake, but with everybody else, they seem to have much more depth than we thought they had depth last year. We were all proven wrong. It seems like they've got depth this year because all those guys are experienced. Every one of those guys that are being playing down lower experience. Of course, Malik Renew here. You got Sparks, who's got his own experience. Khalil Ware's got experience. And of course, Walker has got a ton of experience. So you've got a very experienced front court now. And then if you can add a decent piece on that wing and a decent shooting guard, and they've got what they need. They've upgraded in the areas that they needed to upgrade in, if that comes to be.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the big question being who those players turn out to be. You know, it's they could, in theory, be a lot better. I'm just not going to rush to the idea, and part of it is because, like, to your point, we thought they had depth, and you know, again, just having watched it more from a distance and not really from up close, I still don't understand how some of those guys weren't better. You know, I mean, I
think the coaches wonder that. I really do, and but some of it is weird. Like I remember, and I think it might have been either a Big Ten tournament game or early NCAA tournament game where the team is gathered and Jordan Geronimo sitting on the bench still, kind of with his arm just kind of looking off into space, and it's like, wow, that was telling and weird.
Odd.
So
the fact that guy didn't have a really productive year just stuns me. Absolutely stuns me, especially when Race was out for a while, because you saw him sort of bursting at the seams for a couple of years. You know, just the amount of talent that he had, and I mean, he had games where it was just like, okay, there it is. You know, there it is. That's that guy. You give him 30 minutes, and he's going to be an all Big Ten player. You know, like that's what I thought going into that. I mean, like, you know, certainly, you know, Bates had his struggles freshman year, and you weren't totally sure where I thought he was going to be pretty good. I close to knew Geronimo was going to be good, and it didn't happen, and I was wrong because you'd seen it. I mean, like, he'd had spectacular games. He had a spectacular game in the tournament last year in the play-in round, first four, whatever you want to call it, in Dayton. I mean, he was unbelievable that game. You know, so when you saw that much athletic talent, just raw physical athletic talent, I mean, I'm still shocked that didn't translate. So my point being, to go back to the initial reason I brought it up, is, you know, we don't know what translates on paper. You know, that you're talking about a lot of production lost between Jackson Davis and Hood Schifino, and Miller Kopp and Race Thompson. I mean, those are some experienced guys, some talented guys. You know, you lose Jordan Geronimo and Tabar Bates. You know, there's talent there, even if they didn't necessarily hit their potential. There's really talented players, so there's a lot of guys that are being shifted out of that, a lot that has to be replaced. So, you know, I feel like I'm not going to know anything about this team until December, until, you know, it has played, until you have a sense of how good Xavier Johnson can still be, you know, how good Khalil Ware is. How much Peyton Sparks can raise his level, you know, in moving up a notch, you know, where Walker fits in, and then who these new guys end up even tend to be, you know, CJ Gunn, Caleb Banks, Ja'Kai Newton, Gabe Cups, you know, what do they do? How ready are they? You know, there's so many questions that are going to be answered for this. I wouldn't even want to hazard a guess. as to what Indiana can be in 23-24.
No, that prediction business is
we're out.
It's bad. And something else I wanted to bring up quickly is because the block charge call is being looked at. It's like, but here's the thing that blows my mind and aggravated me. When I was reading it and it said, if once the offensive player has planted his plant foot and is making his move, the defender cannot slide in. And I'm like, how the hell was it not already like that? I thought that was the rule.
Yeah, I thought
Me
that was
too. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? So basically, they just haven't been calling it right, in my opinion, because there's no way it can be this bad. And that's what they were. They were giving defenders that chance that no matter what, and that's not the rule. It's just dumb, and you have to do away with this.
I guess the question was, is it before? Did it used to be before they took off? Like it's like if you got in motion when they took off, were you like? And that's we're talking about, like just fractions of seconds.
I think that what has happened that it was. And then as athletes have gotten faster, sports have gotten faster, calls have gotten harder. It's gotten more difficult to make that. And now I truly believe they guess half of the time. And I don't understand why, but officials are the most gullible people on planet Earth. Why is it that when you're watching an event, every fan, every media person or whatever can always tell when something's like, oh, that's a flop, but an official just doesn't call it that way. You're like, what the hell are you watching? And I don't care what way it goes. It's just some things are just obvious. And I'm like, I don't know how you miss that, dude.
I would say, I would say it's different up close. It's different up close than it is on
well,
TV.
It's fast. Now, the fast I get. When it happens so fast, I understand. It's so hard. That's not even fair.
It's just, I think that's a big piece of it is just the, you see contact, you see somebody fall, and, but before your mind is even fully processed, you either got to blow the whistle or not. And I guess that's the thing. Like, man, I do not envy officials. I'm also the worst press box official. Like, everybody asks me, like, don't you think that was right? I have no idea. I never have it processed. In time to have an idea, and I'm almost always wrong when I try to even think about it. So people are constantly on me about that. Like, don't you think this is unfair? Don't you think it's that unfair? Like, I really don't know. But it's not easy. I think that's the biggest thing is that, like, if you see somebody hit into somebody and you see somebody fall, man, you are trying to react faster than your mind can process. Because it's like if you wait to sit there and think about it and give yourself a beat to make a decision and then you blow the whistle, people are like, that's late. What are you doing? You're trying to, the fact that you even had time to think makes it suspicious. And so it's like you're trying to blow the whistle at your first reaction. So that's what you're going off of is when you see contact and somebody fall, your mind is telling you that it was more contact than it really was. And yes, the street pride of the crowd does affect calls by officials. I mean, we got to go because I know John's going to kick me off in a minute here. But I think it's a fascinating sort of mental psychological study, like what officiating is, like what we're asking.
This is going to be all the changes they've made with the flop and whatever that they've tried to make a point of emphasis. This is going to be the most interesting because this is going to take a great change on the officials' part.
It's the call. It is the call in basketball is, block charge. It's just, again, it's that point where you're making contact and it either goes one way or the other. It is incredibly hard. And it's a super difficult decision, to make in real time. I'll never kill refs. You got to blow something really bad and really obviously for me to make fun of you. And it just has to be apparent because it's a hard job, man. I mean, I only umpired maybe one game in my life. You know, like I've never read.
Oh, baby.
And it's
I
just
made my summer money umpiring baseball, baby.
It's brutal. It is brutal.
Oh,
man.
I had an old woman yelling at me when I was
bet you
13 years old, man.
Yeah. No, I love it. And last thing, because John's really gonna kick me off. But like in New Jersey, they're saying like if you heckle an official, you have to ump 3 games by yourself. I love that. I think that's great. I think
that. And a few years ago, I saw a guy that was coaching, managing a little league baseball team, and he said, "I'm going to have 9 assistant coaches," and it was an assistant coach for every player's dad had to be an assistant coach, and he put them in their position, and so there was no moaning, no whining. He said, "It's your kid. You put him in the position. It's your responsibility." Yeah, exactly.
That's a whole different. I don't even know if I'm okay with that. That's too
much. What's up next for you, brother?
I got more Indiana Fever camp this week. They had their exhibition game on Sunday night. Grace Berger had 4 points. So that was fun to watch because they're really, really, really young. But they've got media day on Wednesday. They've got an exhibition game on Saturday, and then next weekend is the draft combine. So I'll be in Chicago. So, but yeah. So some interesting coming up for men's and women's basketball next 2 weeks.
When is that draft combine?
Next week. I don't know if it starts Monday or Tuesday. I got to get my mind right here on that, so make sure I get my hotel booked. So we've had kind of some mixed signals coming from the league as to what's when. Don't have a specific schedule yet. Gotcha. But got to check that out so we know when we're starting. And the lottery is Tuesday, the 16th. That I know.
Can't wait. Appreciate you, brother. Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star joining us here on Indiana Sports Speed Radio. We've got AJ Guyton coming up to join us next here. We're looking forward to it. You have a great day, my friend, and a great week. And tell Maxine we said hello.
She's making all kinds of noise back there. She has all kinds of thoughts, so I'll let her know. Thanks.
Oh, she's been awesome. Great one. We've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Speed Radio. Brought to you by Metalworks Brewing Company, served in all the Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Back with more from the golf club at Eagle Point Studios right after this.
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
My,
all right. So is he joining us right here? I'm assuming at 10?
10:10.
Oh, 10:10. Okay, so we'll just do a short thing here, and we'll wrap up with him. Perfect.
How about that?
Now let him know. I didn't have his email. I'll send it to his text to his phone. I mean, I guess he probably saw it, but if you've been texting me, but that's where
you did what?
I sent the link to his phone. I don't have his email. I have his phone though.
When you say phone, you texted it to him?
Yes.
Let's see.
I'm gonna let you do this one solo so I can get some things put together while we're doing a short segment here. So when we come back, I'll pop out of the stream.
What am I doing solo?
Just the segment by yourself for a few minutes. I'm going to pop out of the stream so I can get some stuff going. That's why I felt bad earlier when you asked me that question about the Colts. I was trying to do something and I didn't have an answer for you. So I was like, well, I guess I
also just emailed you.
You emailed me something?
His email.
Okay, that's fine. Here we go. All right, you just let him know he's got it in both places now.
My, hey, rock and roll and never die. How about that for a fill-in?
Mm-hmm.
Last minute.
All right, here we go.
Corner of Patterson and Rogers in Bloomington offers a variety of freshly made fare, tying their roots in limestone with their love of Southern eateries. With quality, local, and organic food as their main focus, Southern Stone strives to always provide their guests with an exceptional dining experience. With weekly specials, quick, attentive service, Southern Stone Restaurant provides delicious, 5-star comfort food with a Southern charm at 2-star prices. Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back to the studios, the Golf Club at Eagle Point, high atop the 18th fairway. It's Monday, May 8th. Looks like it's going to be a so-so day out there, but that's okay. We've had pretty nice weather. AJ Guyton joining us next. Looking forward to talking to AJ. I've not talked to him for a little bit. It's been the AJ days. We had AJ Moye on just Friday. Both of the AJs are our favorites, man. We love both. AJ Guyton's daughter is killing it. As far as recruits, she's one of the Peoria area's most sought-after high school basketball products. 5'8" guard. She's going to be fun to watch. And we know AJ is proud as he can be, man. But can you imagine having that kind of tutelage? That dude could get it done. Whether it was shooting the three, dishing it out. He took care of biz. She has a ton of offers. I know that. Iowa, lots of different ones. I'm trying to pull that up real quick, but looking forward to talking to AJ. I haven't talked to him for a while, so good to see how he's been as well. Get his thoughts on the state of today's game. And man, can you imagine being all of these guys, especially a former Indiana basketball player? Think about what in the world they could have, the NIL, the guys that were, I'm talking about on teams that were really good. I'm talking about guys like Calbert Cheney, Damon Bailey, AJ Guyton. Can you imagine? Whew. This wasn't their time. And it really makes me wonder, too, though, things like Reggie Bush and losing the Heisman Trophy because his family accepted money for the family. And I'm like, you know what? I think you got to give it back now. I know that it was against the rules then, but the rules were stupid. But that's not, well, that's a different deal. That's has to do with the House of Heisman, the Heisman Foundation. And I don't know if that's coming from the inside either. Maybe I bet that may change someday as more and more younger guys get in there from this era. But we'll see. We shall see. And USC, UCLA is just seeming to add more and more to the Big Ten as with their impending alignment. Of course, that's a year away, but USC, they're loading up in football. And right now, the basketball program is certainly picking up. UCLA, their basketball program already flying high under Mick Cronin. I mean, that could be a huge
boost in Big Ten play. And how will that change? UCLA is not a Big Ten style play. What will that help speed things up as far as style of play change? Will it have an effect, a positive effect on how the Big Ten is viewed, on the Big Ten success? We'll have to see. What are the odds of Indiana landing one or both of the current targets that they are really in on? Mackenzie and Mbako, of course. Jordan Dingle, the other. Like I said, with Indiana in the position that they're in right now, that it's getting further, the time is getting further along, but these are two guys that are, on paper, perfect for these two positions. And it raises Indiana up another level. I would be surprised on why what I know these guys can earn from an NIL standpoint, not from an exact figure, but from the great possibilities. The thing is, I don't know if others are giving specific figures. You're not supposed to. But they can all gear up and say, hey, talk to Jalen Hood-Schifino and see what he was paid. That's about all they can do. But, man, I'm sure that they are doing whatever they can to lock these two spots up. Louisville, I would be more shocked than anything to see Mackenzie and Mbako go to Louisville. I think that he wants to play and is going to be gone too soon. Louisville's not going to be a factor for 2 years. And I don't think any of these transfer portal guys, they are not looking for projects. They are not looking to be a part of a project. They are looking to be a part of winning now, winning today. And that's something that Indiana offers. They do offer that. Maybe not as good as Kansas because their roster is a little deep, just better. But I think Indiana could be right there if they get these two spots. And it would be an incredible matchup when you see Kansas come into Bloomington next year. Looking forward to that and many others. And much more. Looking forward to talking to AJ Guyton here today as well. We've got lots more coming up, brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill down in Bedford. If you're down that area, stop in for the great Cajun cuisine. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the That's what I thought. Thank you, LG. I knew all those names sounded familiar. Talking about the USFL.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, they better. They're shooty parents. Oh, there we go. Michigan does have Panthers, a.k.a. Mountain Lion. Seen two, one right next to his house. I did not know that. I did not know mountain lions were in Michigan. I didn't think they lived in cold weather. What the hell do I know? Obviously nothing about mountain lions. Russell says he believes Michigan has a puma. Damn, really? What the hell? Now wait a minute. How that Indiana doesn't have that?
Excuse me. Just curious before we get in the next segment. He's not in Central Time, is he?
Yes, he is. But I said
he knows. Okay, good.
Your time. You might want to text him again and say, "Hey, we're ready."
Okay. There you go. Perfect.
Hey, Jay.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Repping Peoria, baby.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. How you doing?
Are you in school?
Yeah, we in school. We don't finish until June 2nd, I believe. So
yep. Run you long, man. How you been?
Hey, man, can't complain, man. It's been good.
It's been an AJ week.
Huh?
Here we go. 10 seconds, guys.
New brews and will be offered in all Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Come taste with Dr. Hobbs' Brewing, Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by K-Bello. Now back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Monday, May 8th, and nothing can make you smile happier than AJ Guyton. He's always got a smile on his face. AJ, how are you, my man?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Good, sir. Working away at school and looking forward to summer break, I bet.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a long year, man. Long year and a half. Definitely looking forward to having a little break this summer.
And you've had double duty because your normal duties with that, and your daughter has just been lighting the world on fire from a basketball standpoint. I know I see it all the time. I follow her playing unbelievably. That, first of all, has to make you, I know you're proud as all get out, but then there are all the different emotions that come with that, because I know there's 1,000 things. When she does something right, it's like, oh, great. When she does something wrong, it's like, oh, damn. She gets fouled or does fouls. There's so many things that are always flying through your head. But it's got to be just the most amazing thing, almost like reliving your own career.
Yeah, definitely, man. It's been a dream come true, and she's worked hard. She deserves, whatever accolades and wins and trophies and opportunities that she creates for herself, and it's because she followed a plan. She put the plan together. She followed it, and she has an opportunity, to play college basketball for free. So at the end of the day, that's what it was all about for her on that side. But it's just all about her being the best version of herself, not of her mom, not of her dad, just being the best version of herself. And she's done a great job of handling it, being mature, making sure she has everything she needs to have and following her plan. So as a father, I'm extremely proud of her, and I'm excited for her and what the future holds for her.
Multiple offers, but a very, very good chance fans will get to see her in the Big Ten, because Nebraska, Iowa, Michigan State, Illinois, in addition to Ohio State, in addition to Bradley and the schools outside Mississippi State and the SEC. I mean, that's got to be pretty damn cool to see that. I mean, I couldn't imagine my daughter getting those kinds of offers from an athletic. Those are all big timers, man.
Yeah, definitely, man. It's a real good moment for us as a family to be able to talk to those coaches, Shauna Green and Lisa Bluter, on the telephone, and and be able to just gauge their opinions about her, and and them believing in her, because a lot of the coaches who recruited her are veteran coaches who've been around a long time. So it's not like they're seeing her for the first time and just getting excited about a new kid. They've coached great players, so it makes it exciting to be able to pick their brain about her, how they feel about her, and what can help her get better, and their plans for her and her future. So, I'm looking forward to her process of her picking the school and supporting that.
How is it I'm assuming your parents had not been recruited by Division I schools for or had they for anything?
But my parents, no, my parents didn't.
Okay.
No.
So they had nothing to lean on. It was all new to them. You not only did you get to go through that, you went through it at the level that she is. So with Indiana, Bob Knight, those kind of names, huge. So to have you there helping her has got to be an incredible help to her, and a little bit of peace of mind for you.
Absolutely, man. I'm able to see her and go through a process with her, and then recognize all the changes that have been made throughout the process, from my time being recruited to her time being recruited. It's not the same game, and it's also the ladies' game. So it's not as much of a rat race as it is on the boys' side, when it comes to, going after all these recruits. Girls are a little bit more mature. They kind of know what they want. They don't string people along. Coaches on that side are the same way. But the NIL, the portal, has changed a lot about how, those colleges view freshmen. And you got to be pretty special as a freshman to be recruited now and be, sought after. So, I've tried to lean on my knowledge, on the basic side of things of what to look for in being recruited and who's really recruiting you versus who's just talking. These things you learn, if you go through the process. And so I liken it to dating, man. It's like, when a man wants a girl, he goes after that girl. When he doesn't want her, he doesn't give her the attention that he deserves. So we have to look at it in that form. Which schools are giving you the attention that you deserve, and then we go from there. So it's been exciting to be able to learn about the way, because it was 20-something years ago. I hate to age ourselves, but it's been 20 plus years since I've been recruited, so it's a lot different, but it's been fun.
That's funny, the dating reference, because it is dead on. And as soon as you said that, I was like, oh my God. Because if you're chasing a girl, at least from a boy standpoint, if she has anything to do with you or not, or if you're just throwing into an empty pond, man, So yeah, that's a great analogy. So
on the flip side, you know who's into you. You know what I mean? On the flip side, as a young lady, if that guy is into you, so we know who's really into her, and we know who just offered to just offer.
Any timeline? She's still young.
It could be anywhere. No, she's junior, but it's going to be anywhere between June and August is her timeline. So
of this year.
Of this year, yeah. So
well, good luck to her, man. A lot of, like I said, a lot of great schools on this list, and very good chance of getting to see her and play in the Big Ten, which would be awesome. Which means we'd get to see you more.
Absolutely, yeah.
Speaking of you, back in can you imagine getting to play? You mentioned NIL and all that during this time of college athletics that has just become it's done a 180, and it is a completely almost a different sport now, where it is everything is to the highest bidder. Your team is going to be different every year to a degree. That was always the case with recruiting, but now it's more so because there's going to be a couple of guys that graduate, but there's going to be a couple of guys that guarantee now that are going to transfer. So you're going to have different faces. How difficult, or would you think that have been when you were playing, to have that much change that frequently?
Well, it's normal to them today. It's something that's normal to them. To us, being old school, it was just something that we never really thought about. We always thought about finishing whatever we started at that time. So no matter what the circumstances was, plus they made the ability to transfer a lot more difficult, and they made you really think about it, being that you had to sit out 1 or 2 years. So it's just something that, I think it's what's happened is, something that people have always wanted. And it's always that old affirmation: be careful what you wish for, because we got it at the end of the day. And it's free agency, it's professional. And people don't want to admit it, but these kids are professionals now. They're about their business. It's not about going to college. It's not about getting a degree. It's about going to the highest bidder, getting all the money you can get. And what does that sound like? It sounds like being a professional. So this is what people wanted, and to a degree, I've always wanted college athletes to be taken care of, and to have the things that they need, not exactly what they want, but what they need: roof over their head, food, ability to get around, stuff like being able to go see your family when there's a funeral. Not being able to go to see your family when there's a funeral is just extremely harsh. But those little things are great. But to be riding around in a BMW and living in probably a 8-bedroom home, living in college, man, and I just don't know how long that's going to be able to go before it implodes. So I'm with you. I'm sitting here on the bench and I'm watching this game, but I don't like to think back how much money I would have made and all that stuff. I really, I would have enjoyed it transferring. We went through a lot of turmoil during my time. I probably would have thought about transferring, to be honest with you, if we had what happened today, because we had a lot of good stuff going on during my 4 years. People transferring, leaving, all kinds of stuff going on. So you never know, but it's a great opportunity, for somebody to step in and really get control of the NCAA.
Well, and that's an amazing thing to hear, because it has become so easy, the transfer. You don't have to talk to the coaches. You don't talk to anybody. You just go do your deal now. And man, I mean, how many teammates of yours do you think could have possibly transferred just because of that, when it's that easy to do? I mean, that's
that easy. Yeah, we probably. I mean, I probably would say,
especially if you've got teams coming after you like Kansas or teams like that, which would have been coming after you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, half our team would have been in the portal every year for sure. I mean, just if you're linking everything to the way it is today and the thought processes that the kids have today versus what we were going in conjunction with what we were going through, half our team would have been in the portal. So it's just what it was. But, we weren't thinking like that back then. We were really trying to win for Indiana University, fix what was broken, and putting our best foot forward for the university and Coach Knight.
And since those days are basically gone, careers like yours that are, I mean, you're one of the all-time greats. You've got marks that are never, ever going to be touched now. Well, they were going to be hard to be gotten to begin with, but now it's almost a certainty. Ain't nobody touching these records, man. Which is a good thing in a way, but not, because you want to see that competition chasing the greats. And if they're not, I mean, Trace Jackson Davis was probably the last basketball player at Indiana that will put up a substantial number in any category.
Yeah, I mean, you started with the one and done, and then now you throw the portal in there, you throw the NIL collectives in there, and there's no way there's going to be a kid who stays anywhere for 4 years, scores 2,000 points, gets 1,000 rebounds or whatever. It's just not going to happen anymore. And that's the residual effect from what the people wanted. They don't realize what they're going to be sacrificing, the historical nature of college basketball, and robbing the fans and the supporters of that opportunity to get to see a Calvert Chaney for 4 years or an Allen Henderson for 4 years. So, or AJ Guyton. So you won't see that anymore.
And that's truly sad, to be honest with you. It really is.
It is.
Oh man, I had a great question on my mind too. Darn it. I should have written it down. Anyway, So going forward, Indiana, where they are, oh, yeah, I was going to ask, with the COVID year, you may have another year of eligibility, and Indiana could use a two guard in the worst way possible, and a nice NIL package would be there for you, AJ, if you have that COVID year of eligibility.
Man, that would have been nice, right? And you add that part to it as well, man. Just watching them and, just wishing that, we were playing a little more open, a little more free. I know I see a lot of big men being recruited and all this stuff. I said, man, we need somebody that can make shots. We need shot creators. We need shot makers in order to take that next step. We got all the bigs we can use. So if I had that eligibility, I'd definitely sign up. No doubt about that.
And then, of course, you've seen Indiana play. Now they've lost what they've lost, gained what they've gained, but they still need that wing. They still need that two. And desperately to me to compete next year to win the Big Ten, they have to fill that wing. They have to fill that two spot. Otherwise, I think it's going to be an uphill battle for them.
Yeah, that wing, that 1, 2, 3, and stretch 4 are the most important positions. Your 5 is normally a guy that's an energy guy that can really rebound. There's not too many back to the basket guys. If you can get a 5 that can stretch that, you really, really made yourself formidable. But we haven't been able to capitalize on that. So your options are to really, really dig into the portal or to develop what you have and try to turn. That was the goal in the 90s and earlier and prior to the last couple of years was really development. You brought a kid in, you looked at him, a kid like CJ Gunn, you brought him in, you recruited him, but you developed him and turned him into an all Big Ten player. So that's kind of being lost. I just wonder how those guys feel, being like, oh, we need a shooting guard. Oh, you got one right here. I'm sitting right here. Let me give me my opportunity to get in this gym. Get stronger, get better, get quicker. Let me see. That's what you lose when you dig into the portal and you dig into NILs. You lose that ability to develop an AJ Guyton or somebody who came in very under-recruited, underrated, and developed into a better basketball player by putting in the work. And you're looking for instant gratification, which is normally it's tough to find. So they're definitely going to have to find those jewels to compete.
And that's very, very telling because Indiana has been lacking in this specific area for a couple of years. Milton says, what's up, by the way?
What's up, Milton?
AJ? But yeah, you're so right because you think back to all these guys that you've named, including yourself, but these great players, whether it's Alan Henderson, Calbert Cheney, it doesn't matter. Brian Evans, they were all there for 4 years. They all got developed. They got developed by a coach that was a very, very demanding person, but it's because he was demanding of not perfection, but permanency. There's no such thing as perfection, but you can try to make things permanent as much as possible. And it seems like that's what the entire goal was. What's been up for you? What's been up going on with you? What's next?
What's next for me is to continue to support my daughter on the travel circuit, which she's doing a good job and winning some championships there. She just loves to play the game, so I'm supporting her all through the summer. June, I'll be running my own sports camp here in Peoria. I do it every year and help to develop young kids and introduce them to the game of basketball the right way.
Make sure we get that information so we can get that sent out. What are those dates?
Those dates are June 5th through June 29th here in Peoria, at Woodruff High School. And his ages third grade up to rising third graders up to rising eighth graders. So that means entering third grade, entering eighth grade. So a crucial time for kids to develop and to get the right teaching at the right time. So do that. And then I'll just start in a whole new year and support my family and my daughter as she continues to make her decision and, try to navigate, help her make the best decision possible, man. So it's been a blessed time period for me. Lots of traveling, lots of moving around, you know what I mean? But it's an opportunity to spend time with your child. And so it's awesome.
Very, very special. We'll get that information out on his camps the 5th through the 29th in Peoria. We've got a lot of listeners in Illinois. We're actually on another station up in Hammond, Chicago as well on WJOB. So make sure all the listeners up in Chicago listening that you can go down to AJ's camp. But we look forward to having AJ on again, man. We'll get you on again over the summer, and we'll talk about it. We'll get you on back before the camp comes on as well.
Always a pleasure, man. Favorite show. Keep it going, Jim.
Appreciate you, AJ. AJ Guyton, just a great person, but one of the IU greats joining us here on the program. We'll have that information up more about his camps that are coming up. Cannot thank him enough. Big thanks, of course, to Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star as well. John, the producer, for keeping us between the white lines. Hope you enjoyed it as we try to bring it to you every day, and hopefully we were able to do it again. We're back tomorrow to do it again. I'm Jim Coyle. Until then, I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.